At the beginning of the movie, a team of Marines led by Captain Tom Mason enter an Afghan village, where they encounter a man planting an IED.
Jake, watch him.
Moving forward, sir. He hasn't primed it.
Come on, pretty boy.
They demand the man show his hands, but when he pulls a gun, they kill him.
Jake, watch him.
Jake Atherton wants to disarm the IED, but Mason demands he retreat with the Marines. Jake ignores the order and manages to disarm the bomb.
He was priming it for us.
Just come back.
I can see it, sir.
What's your status, Atherton?
But just then another explosion goes off next to them, and Taliban fighters emerge and wipe out the team. Jake and Mason have survived the ambush and are returning fire. An RPG goes off next to Mason. But Jake fights his way to him before they are both rescued. 5 years later, Jake now works as an auto mechanic at a shop owned by his uncle and retired gangster Earl. After a day's work, he returns home to his son Weston and wife Ash, who shows him the latest bills that came in that day. She is worried about being behind on payments, but Jake reassures her that they'll get through this rough patch.
You taking a piece of this chicken? No.
That night, as always, Jake tells Weston stories about his former teammates and Captain Mason, who was present the day Weston was born. Weston wonders if they still talk, but Jake tells him not as much as he would like. As Jake tucks Weston in, he wonders if his dad ever killed anyone, but Jake urges him to get some rest for school. The next day, Jake gets to work to see some gangsters' cars parked outside and calls for Earl. Some Mexican gangsters then walk by him and bump into him, warning him that Earl needs to get with the program and start paying them extortion. Jake tells them to keep moving, but they take it as disrespect and decide to jump him, but Jake beats them down. The last gangster, Fresh, flashes his gun, warning Jake that they will meet again. Afterwards, Earl tells Jake about his previous life as a gangbanger, which is how he got the cash to start his business. In a way, he understands the business, but refuses to allow them to shake him down in the place he calls home. Jake is worried for him, as he knows the gangsters will be back and he cannot afford to lose Earl, or the only way to provide for his family. Ash and Weston hear about the incident, and she wishes he had called the cops, but Jake reassures them it's no big deal and everything will be okay. Later, Jake gets home only to see Fresh driving away talking about payback. Jake rushes inside calling for Ash and Weston, only to stumble upon their dead bodies. Later, the cops try to get some information about the perpetrator out of Jake, but he just takes off in his car. Jake is searching for the gangsters, thoughts of his family fueling his urge for revenge. He spots Fresh's car parked outside a club and pulls up. He grabs his gun and heads inside, where he spots Fresh in a corner. Jake takes out the man at the door first before gunning down everyone inside the club. He holds the last man at gunpoint, and Fresh swears he didn't mean to kill his family, but Jake kills his last goon before killing Fresh. For his actions, Jake is thrown into federal prison. 5 months later, Jake is still tormented with thoughts of his family. One day, Mason comes to visit him, revealing he is working on reopening Jake's case, but Jake thinks he is right where he belongs. He doesn't regret his actions, and just as he told the judge, he would do it again in a heartbeat.
'Cause I do it again in a fucking heartbeat.
Guard.
Jake is returned to his cell. That night, he recalls during the extraction out of Afghanistan, when Mason had made the decision to retire. Jake thinks he owes Mason his life, but Mason tells him he owes him nothing and urges him to take care of himself. In the present, Jake is visited by a man named Sam Ramsay. He starts by telling Jake he runs a small private task force, but Jake refuses to hear anymore and asks the guard to take him back to his cell. That night, masked men burst into Jake's cell and kidnap him. He is brought to the roof of the prison before Ramsay and his team. Jake wonders if they're CIA, but Ramsay reveals his group is more secretive and goes by the name Section 8. He has been watching Jake for a while and knows in detail his military background, battle with depression, and the loss of his family. What he finds interesting is the way he took out the gangsters, and while the courts weren't impressed, Ramsay doesn't think a guy like him should rot away in prison. Ramsay can give him his life back and asks him to consider what Weston would want: his father to live like a convict or the hero he is. Jake accepts the offer and is taken to a secret underground facility in Washington, D.C. Ramsay calls the Batcave. As Ramsay does his introductions, Jake steals a nearby pen. Ramsay continues, revealing that Section 8 has 16 highly trained black operatives in total, and they take their orders from the State Department, and are sanctioned to eliminate all threats anywhere in the world that would present a threat to national security. Agent Mueller will be his watcher, and will be accompanying Jake on all his assignments as he gains seniority. He will be given a bank account and a new identity. As to the outside world, Jake Atherton is dead. He will be provided with all his equipment, but first the team will put him through an initiation process. This turns out to be a 1v1 between Jake and Agent Ajax, and while Ajax is ready for a brawl, Jake doesn't want to fight. He tries to walk away, but Ajax attacks him, forcing him to defend himself.
You're a tough guy, we get this.
Jake has had enough, body slams Ajax, and holds the pen to his eye, but Ash's voice stops him.
He doesn't belong here, guys.
For Jake's first mission, he is tasked with eliminating Alejandro Castillo, a U.S. defense contractor, and recovering schematics he plans to sell to a Russian buyer. The deal will go down in Mexico, and Alejandro will be heavily guarded, posing quite a challenge getting to him. Jake notes that Ramsay left the assassin part out of the job description, but Mueller tells him they're whatever they're ordered to be. Their private jet brings them to Jalisco, Mexico, where the two are posted outside a heavily guarded hangar where the deal will be going down. Mueller won't be tagging along, reminding Jake that his freedom lies in the success of the mission. Jake pushes forward, rifle at the ready. Meanwhile, Alejandro meets his Russian buyers, who don't have time for Alejandro's talking and urgently want to get the deal over with. Jake takes out a lone guard, but the Russians hear the gunfire and think they're being set up. There is a standoff between both sides, then gunfire erupts. Jake uses the confusion to get closer to the chaos and take out anyone still left alive. He finds an injured Alejandro and demands he hand over the schematics, but Alejandro refuses and Jake kills him. Jake leaves Alejandro's girls alive and retrieves the schematics, but back at base Ramsay is not pleased he left the girls alive, thinking he compromised the integrity of the team. Jake tells him the job was done and the girls were innocent, and he won't be killing random people just to please Ramsay. Ramsay threatens to throw him back in jail, but Jake would prefer that over having it held over his head. Ramsay is impressed with his conviction and tells him to go get some rest. Ramsay tells Mueller to keep an eye on Jake, but Ajax thinks maybe he made a mistake picking Jake for the team. We then see Section 8 agent Leonard Locke infiltrating a building and wiping out the guard. He corners his target in his bed, who suspects that Ramsay sent him. He offers Locke money, but Locke just kills him. He tries to leave unnoticed, but guards try intercepting him, leading Locke to beat them all down. He then steals a car outside and escapes the scene. Jake gets to his brand new apartment where he sees photos of his former army team, triggering another flashback with Mason after the ambush. Later he is sitting in a bar drinking when Mueller comes to join him. He asks about Ramsay's story, but not even Mueller knows about him. As for Mueller, she has a background in the army, but was reprimanded after punching her commanding officer. She has heard about his family and apologizes, as it's not something anyone can easily get over, but Jake thinks there's no getting over it. For the team's next mission, their task is to retrieve digital information from Senator Jim Graham. Mueller is taken back by the request, but Ramsay reveals that Graham is a traitor to the U.S. Mueller will retrieve the files while Jake stays on Overwatch. The senator will be guarded by private contractors who will more than likely put up resistance. Jake and the team arrive at Graham's ranch disguised as a landscaping crew while Graham holds a campaign meeting. Mueller infiltrates a nearby building, taking out the guards. But the rest are alerted and Graham is evacuated.
Get you out of here now. Come with me. This way.
He is rushed to his jeep, which takes off, but Jake cuts off the jeep, striking it with bullets before chasing after it.
What the f-
Meanwhile, Mueller manages to download the data. Graham's jeep almost gets away, but Jake manages to cut it off once more, shooting and killing the driver. Graham pleads for his life, telling Jake he has a family, causing Jake to hesitate, but Graham is shot and killed by Ajax, who tells Jake he hesitated. This seems to really bother Jake, and that night he sits looking at a picture of Ash while drinking his pain away. Jake then notices some shadows creeping outside and disappears before a hit team enters the home. Jake goes to visit Mason, wanting to know everything he does about Section 8. Mason knows of a Section 8 that was dismantled way back in the 90s, but if they are still operative, they would have connections all the way up to the White House. Jake asks about Ramsay, but Mason promises to look into him. If Section 8 is after Jake, then he has serious problems. He wants a gun and some cash, but Mason thinks he will want way more. Jake then calls Ramsay directly, who wants Jake to come in so they can talk. He is responsible for the hit on Jake's head, as Jake's hesitation with Graham is something they cannot overlook. Ramsay wants to call in Locke, and while Mueller thinks they can find Jake on their own, he insists that Locke be activated. Locke is in Buenos Aires when he gets the call to go after Jake. Jake gets back to his hometown when he bumps into Weston's best friend Landon, unaware that Locke is watching him nearby. Landon thanks him for making them safe by taking care of Fresh, revealing he always saw him talking to people in black suits. Suddenly Locke opens fire on Jake, not sparing civilians. Jake manages to escape the gunfire. Cops try intercepting Locke, but he just guns them down. Locke reports to Ramsay that Jake got away, but Ramsay is disappointed as he thought Locke was the best. Jake goes back to Earl's shop. He recalls Earl sacrificing to raise him after his parents passed, and thinks he would be nothing without him. Just then they are alerted to intruders, and it's Ajax, Mueller, and other Section 8 agents. Earl kills one of the agents, but another attacks Jake. He kills the man, and uses his body to shield against Ajax's gunfire before diving for his gun. The two exchange gunfire, Ajax taunting Jake. Jake runs out of bullets, but Ajax wants to have fun, and throws his rifle aside. The two then clash, throwing each other around. Ajax manages to grab a weapon, but Mueller shoots and kills him. Earl then hands Jake his car keys, urging them to get out of there. Mueller reveals she saved Jake as she sees him as an opportunity to get out of Section 8. He has a hard time trusting her, but she just put her ass on the line and is willing to lead him to Ramsay's private cabin. The two arrive on the edge of Ramsay's compound. He wants her to head back as things could get dangerous, but Mueller refuses. Jake is then suddenly knocked out. He wakes tied to a chair sitting before Ramsay and Mueller, who had betrayed him. Mason also enters the room, revealing this entire plan was his idea. They needed a soldier for their division, and after Mason identified Jake, Ramsay threw some money around to some local gangsters and had them execute his family. Jake is enraged hearing this, but Mason thinks he had a talent and wasted it after leaving the army, and this had to be done. They leave, as they are meeting with some congressmen. Ramsay and Mason sit around a table, and they decide to eliminate Jake. Mason leaves to use the bathroom, but sneaks back to Jake's room, revealing he had nothing to do with his family. He was on a mission to take down Section 8 and couldn't risk blowing his cover. The circumstances have changed, and they need to work together to end this now. They then trip the alarms and lure the guards to the room, taking them out in a hail of bullets. They continue dropping the agents, making their way through the building until they get to Ramsay's location. He and Mueller let off shots and take cover, offering Jake and Mason the money that is on the table and Jake his freedom. Jake refuses, and as Ramsay continues to bargain for his life, Mueller tries to sneak up on their position, but Mason ends up covering him. He takes a bullet and falls, and Ramsay uses the chance to escape. As Mason lies there dying, he urges Jake to finish the job. Mueller then holds Jake at gunpoint. She tries to shoot but is out of bullets, so she attacks Jake, managing to stab him in the shoulder with a blade, but Jake uses the same blade to kill her. He gets outside to see Ramsay taking off, so he steals a car to give chase. He catches up and the two trade bullets, but Ramsay gets distracted and ends up crashing. Ramsay walks down to the car to find Jake suffering from his injuries. He thinks Jake won't be able to kill him, but Jake swiftly guns him down. Afterwards, Jake turns himself in and is met by the U.S. Attorney General Savoy, who hints that Mason was working directly for him. Jake did something they have been wanting to do for years, taking out Ramsay. Savoy hints that there are many more like Ramsay out there, and they need men like him in the fight. They plan to give Jake a clean slate and a new life, and give him time to consider their offer. Jake returns home only to find Locke there holding him at gunpoint. Jake tells him it's over, but Locke cannot stop until the job is done, despite the fact that Ramsay is dead. Locke stands prepared to end him, but Jake throws his bag then charges at Locke. Locke pushes Jake back with some powerful blows, but Jake fights back as best as he can. They both pick up knives and start slashing, but end up disarming each other. Locke beats Jake down brutally. But Jake gets his hand on a gun. Locke charges, but Jake shoots him dead. A while later, Earl gets a voicemail from Jake. Jake thanks him for being a father figure to him and teaching him how to be a man. As Earl listens, he looks over a picture of his brother, Jake's father, and cries to himself. We then see Jake boarding a bus and leaving the city. He calls Savoy, accepting his offer. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe for more recaps just like this. And hey, don't click away just yet. YouTube thinks you'll love one of these two videos popping up right here, so check them out next.